When addiction takes control, getting help can change everything. Parkwood Behavioral Health System offers compassionate, evidence-based addiction treatment for adults right here in Mississippi. Take the first step today. Visit parkwoodbhs.com. Healing starts here. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this facility.
Buying Dirt is presented by 601 Sports, Bruce Gray Lampro, Casco Cleaning Solutions, Chase Buckles Mortgage Advisor, Culbertson Cattle Company, Culbertson Concrete Pumping Service, Kirk Douglas Heating and Cooling, Levi Patton Farm Bureau, Southern Ag Credit, Southwest Mississippi NDA Branch, Southwest Mississippi Wildlife Expo, and United Country McDaniel Gray Realty.
Buy dirt, find one you can't.
Good morning. Welcome to this episode of Buying Dirt. Keith, how are you this morning, man?
I'm good.
Man, I'm glad to. Every week I say, Keith, how you doing? I'm glad that you're here because you were out last week or so.
I've been kind of AWOL here.
Yeah, and every now and then I get sick and tired of you, and other times I miss you. I
think the sick and tired is the more often.
I'm joking. No, always. We don't want to take you for granted. We're glad that you're here and that you're participating and
take me for granted,
and
please.
Doing well. We have a special guest with us this morning. This is a gentleman I've met. How long have we known Buddy, Keith? Probably three,
4 years.
Yeah, something like that. This is Mr. Buddy Vick. How you doing, Buddy?
Doing just fine, thank you.
Yep. I met Buddy and I was trying to think back today when we actually met. And I don't remember the circumstance, but I think you may have contacted me about you wanting to sell some land. Is that right? You may remember that better than I do.
I do. I heard you and Keith on the radio a lot, and I had some land listed out east of town, and I heard y'all on the radio, and y'all were kind of cutting up a little bit, and I decided to call you. And y'all listed it and sold it in a reasonable amount of time. I didn't get exactly what I wanted for it, but that wasn't exactly the case. That wasn't your fault. But anyway, y'all did help me, and I do appreciate it.
Well, before we go any further, I just want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Jackson and lived there most of my life, and then moved to Terry in the early to mid-'70s, and then moved to Lower Alabama in 1993. And got in the real estate business down there and really enjoyed it and had a lot of good times down there with friends and family. And some situations occurred, and I decided to move back up here to Mississippi in 2021. And I chose Brookhaven. I've got a lot of friends here and know a lot of people, and it's close to my hometown. And so that's where I ended up.
That's great. Well, we're glad you're here, man. That's wonderful. All right, we're going on today's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about if you're listening today and you own land, and we're going to talk. Of course, this applies to houses too, right, Keith?
Right.
We're going to really steer it more toward land. If you own property and you're thinking about selling, but you really don't know where to start, we've talked about this before multiple times. What I wanted to do is bring Buddy in because he's been through this process multiple times. And so we're just going to talk a little bit, kind of, Buddy, and I'm going to ask you some questions, but you just tell us your opinion. I mean, how do we do this? And these are all simple questions for you because you've done it so many times, but the average Joe does not. And so let's just jump right into it. The first thing is, you're thinking about selling your property. What should you do, Buddy?
Well, it's going to depend on, there's three things that it's got to do with the real estate business, and that's location, location, location. And that makes a lot of difference for school districts and stuff like that. If it's got paved roads, gravel road or whatever, it's got to have good ingress and egress easement to it is a good factor. Utilities is a good factor to look at. Most of the time electric's going to be available, but water is a key factor. If you can't get community water, then you got to dig a well. And then most of the time you're going to have a septic tank. That's just a given. But that's some of the factors I would look at if I was trying to buy some property.
That's right. So if you're thinking about selling, one of the first things you should do is try to arrive at a value. So how do you do that? I mean, what are some options to arrive at a value for a piece of ground?
Well, real estate agents have access to MLS and certain sites that they can look at what land is sold for in the past, and that's going to be a factor. I mean, if you have to get an appraisal on it, an appraiser is going to call real estate agents and see what land is sold for, and they're going to look up certain websites to see what the value is going to be. So it's going to change. I mean, it's usually going to change from year to year, and most of the time it's going to go up. So you just have to kind of stay on the market and get an idea. You can ask friends and relatives or neighbors what their property sold for in the past and use that as a guideline.
That's right. And Keith, a few weeks ago we had a surveyor on as a guest, and we asked him how long's that survey good for. What did he say? You remember?
To the day he signs it.
Yeah, the day he creates it.
Yeah,
and the same is true for an appraisal. You get an appraisal done, it's really good for the day that it was done, for that particular sale time, right?
It immediately starts changing day to day.
The day after,
right,
it changes, or it has potential to change. And it may not change, but it always has potential.
Survey, not so much. It should stay the same.
Yeah, but even that.
But if you're on a creek, yeah, that can change.
River, creek, that kind of thing. Well, the same is true for property values because it can change. So, yeah, having an appraisal done is a good way to determine the value of your property. But unfortunately, it costs a little bit of money to do that. And that's where a good licensed real estate agent will come in handy, because if you get someone that you trust, they can help get comparables, and really there's no cost involved. Most agents, some agents do charge for that, but most don't. But they will give you good sound advice, especially if they think they can help you sell the property, right? So anyway, that's just something.
Yeah, usually if you're going to list your property with an agent, I mean, they'll do that no cost.
That's right. All right, buddy, one of the other things that's really important is gather the necessary documents such as deed and tax information. Why is that important to get?
Well, you got to have it sooner or later, and you might as well go ahead and get it.
Don't wait around.
Amen.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of the process. The deed is just like getting a title to a vehicle. You want a clean title and not any negatives or anything to have to worry about later on. Get it done now so you don't have to do it later.
Yeah, that's important. It's one of the first things that we do as licensed real estate agents, Keith, is when someone calls us and wants to sell their property, our first reaction is you're kind of excited that someone's contacting you about, and you're like, yeah, heck yeah, I can help you sell your place. But really the first thing we need to do is verify ownership, because that person may, in fact, be a owner, but they may not be the only owner, right? And the deed would clarify that. So that's why it's important to get a copy of the deed and to make sure it's filed. We've seen that happen before. We have a deed, but it never was filed. So anyway, it's important to figure all those things out on the front end. What about preparing to sell your land, buddy? Let's say someone has a piece of ground and it's, maybe it's just a vacant piece of ground that doesn't have any improvements. It doesn't have a road on it. It may not even have a culvert going into it, like for a potential driveway. What are some things that people can do to help that property sell quicker?
Well, you mentioned driveway. If you have an idea of where a person might want to put a driveway for future use, if you can go and get a culvert put in, that would help. And try to clear some trails out through the property if you can, to either use a side-by-side or even walking, or so you can kind of check it out. The old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees, but if you get in there and clear it out a little bit, it makes a lot of difference. And the people are seeing what they're getting, whether it's just timber or potential pasture land or whatever they want to use it for.
Yeah. And, in residential real estate, we use this quote all the time: the first impression really counts. And it really does for houses, right? When you first pull up in the driveway, that curb appeal, it
does.
Most people say they make up their mind within 2 minutes of driving up to a property whether or not they want to buy it or not. You know what? It's the same thing applies for a tract of land. It's the same thing. If they pull up to it and they can see potential, and really what you want a buyer to see is them and their family occupying that property, right? But if they pull up there and it's just a briar thicket for the first 20 yards, you can't even get inside of it, they're likely not going to get out of the car or the truck. Right?
At least get a trail, where there's a good, easy access into the woods there. And it might be a briar thicket. If you can get that cleared out where you can get into the good woods.
That's right. And that's typically the case. You go 15, 20 yards, the sunlight blocks, and all of a sudden it's open underneath there. So,
Right. We both all been in those, but I'm sure you have too, where you fight your way through briars, you're about to bleed to death before you get to the other side.
Yeah, and a lady told me a long time ago, I was looking at some property in Gulf Shores, and I rode by there, and I said, there's nothing but trees. It's so darn thick in there. And she said, yeah, but it's worth the money. You ought to go in and buy it. And I just put it on the back burner and never pursue it. And then before I know it, somebody was in there clearing the property. And, boy, it was beautiful. And it just, you got to get a vision. That's what she told me. You got to get a vision. And sometimes you have to look through the briar patch to get to the pretty oaks back there in the back.
And that's why these topo maps, and now there's this program called LIDAR, which is really unique. It can see through all that vegetation and really give you the lay of the land and show you how the elevations go up and down. So it's pretty valuable. How about screening buyers? How important is that, buddy?
Well, I guess you've got to screen them. It's like selling cars or anything else. You have to, ask them if have they been pre-qualified, or how much down payment have they got. You just want to check them out. You don't want to waste their time, and you don't want them to waste yours or the seller.
That's so true. And also, negotiating offers kind of goes along with that. This goes without saying. It doesn't matter if you're trying to sell a bicycle, a car, or a piece of land, and you put a price on it. Someone's going to make you a lower offer, aren't they, Keith?
Right.
Isn't that right, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
That's just human nature. People are going to make an offer, and they'll likely pay more than what they're offering. But I have seen it so many times where this initial offer just offends the sellers. And sometimes I feel like I don't do a good job as a realtor to prepare that client, that seller, for what's coming. Because the person who's wanting to buy it may, in fact, have the money to pay you exactly what you want for it. But they're not stupid. They're going to make a lower offer. So it's important for us as sellers to realize it's coming. And I know some people are better at negotiating than others. But it's always best to, buddy, you just tell me, how do you handle situations like that?
Well, if you own the property and you feel good about it, and you look around at other properties in the area that are for sale, if there are any for sale, and you feel good about yours, then you want to set it at a fair price. I mean, you want to get more than it's worth if you can, and that buyer wants to get as cheap as he can. I mean, it's sort of a game, and it works both ways, but the buyer and the seller have to be happy at the end of the deal. But if you got a nice piece of property and it's come to prime, then you got to hold out for the good money if you can, and that's all you can do. Just hope you get the buyer that's really sincere about buying it and would look forward to having it down the road.
That's right. And I've come to realize that some sellers want to know why people are buying property, and that's understandable, because especially if they're selling a family farm, something that's really near and dear to their heart.
Right.
I mean, they don't want somebody just to buy it and clear cut all the timber, but the truth is you can't control what people do, right? But so part of making your offer as a buyer is to explain what you plan to do with it. Now, I'm not suggesting you lie. Be truthful about it. But if you want to buy it for a home site, then tell them that. Here's our plan. We want to make it a home site for my family, and I guarantee you there are sellers who would appreciate that, and that makes your offer more attractive, just as much so as the price, right?
Yeah, you as the landowner, if you know that somebody's wanting to come in there and make a family, bring their family in there and settle on it and enjoy it for the rest of their lives, it's going to make you feel that much better about selling. But you still want to get your price for it. It's got to work out both ways. There's that number in there in between somewhere that you got to reach as the buyer and the seller.
That's right.
And it's there. You just got to start with a negotiation.
And that negotiating process is just that. It's a process. And it doesn't always happen. I've had situations where someone makes an offer, and literally within 5 minutes you're in a contract. And in the same token, it may take a week, but you kind of go back and forth for a week almost before two parties agree on terms. So every situation is unique and different. It's just important for you as a seller to know that can change. It's not just cut and dry, right, Keith? Buddy, it's not like that, right? It can vary.
Well, that's true, but you mentioned about what somebody's going to do with the property. It's possible. I believe the seller can put a deed restriction on it to go.
That's right.
With the deed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. You can put, such as we've had people say, no mobile homes. So that can be written in the deed, and it carries over with the property.
Right.
So we've had that situation. Or can't be subdivided. And you see that a lot with smaller pieces of land where the seller may not want, maybe it's a 2-acre tract and they're like, you don't need to subdivide it any more than that. But if you don't have that restriction, then people can do whatever they want to do.
Right.
And you can't control it as the seller. Once it's sold, it's sold, right?
Well, just bear that in mind. If you do have something to sell, you do have a little control over it when the deed is written.
All right, the last thing I want to talk about is getting the property closed. All right, so you've arrived at a list price, you found a fair price, you've advertised it for sale, you found a buyer, you've negotiated the terms, and now it's time to close. Buddy, is it wise to get an attorney involved to close the transaction?
As much as I hate it, yes. A good attorney is going to charge you a good amount of money, but it's worth it, in my opinion. I mean, it's a cost. It's cost of doing business.
That's right.
That you got to have, and if you did it yourself, and say you go to the courthouse and check the deed, you could make a mistake and cause you and the buyer a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
So a good attorney is very important to close it. They're going to do a title search in most situations. That's important. If you bought the property, say 5 years ago, and had a title search done on it when you bought it, then that same attorney can go back and kind of update the title and make sure there hadn't been any clouds in the title to affect the sale.
That's right. Well, buddy, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You too, Keith.
Look at that. He gave me a side eye when he.
I see you outside.
Keith, I think it's funny. He said he listened to the radio show and he called me instead of you.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The first thing he said to me, now, who is this Keith Kavix? And I told him who it was. He said, that guy's a hoot. I said, yeah.
I sure did.
told Keith that. Keith's like, well, what does he mean by that? And I said, I don't know. All right, buddy. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your willingness to do business with our office, but more importantly, I appreciate your friendship.
Good to have a wise man on the show.
Glad to be here. Thank y'all.
All right, everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next week right here on Buying Dirt.